Ole Miss defeats Georgia 39-34. And thank God we had a great game because the other games just kind of sucked. I mean, Miami and Ole Miss was okay, or Miami and Ohio State, was okay, but Texas Tech's offense decided to not show up, and Alabama looked like a JV squad. So, thank you so much, God, that we had a good game on the nightcap. And it's funny because I think I'm the only guy outside of Ole Miss circles on YouTube that actually picked them to win this game, and I had no analytical reason to pick Ole Miss in this game for the sole fact that I just had a feeling. It was like an intuition type thing, and that intuition probably derives from the fact that it's really hard to beat elite teams twice in the same season, especially when they're teams that are as familiar with each other as these guys are. Ole Miss has the dogs to run with the dogs. They just do, and they kind of proved that last night. I was expecting, if Ole Miss was going to win this game, I was expecting it to be because Ole Miss's players just simply outplayed the Georgia Bulldogs, but that really wasn't the case. Georgia's players played just as well across the board as Ole Miss's did. It's how Ole Miss won this game that I find interesting and a little surprising, and it's the coaching. Pete Golding outcoached Kirby Smart, and that's very strange, but it's true. Georgia tried getting cute often. I know that they converted their fake punt in their own territory, and that's fine, but that's not the only overly aggressive thing that they did all game. And I feel like it was done too often in unnecessary moments. And I'm surprised that defensively, Georgia never realized, and they never caught on, that when you blitz Trinidad Chambliss, it doesn't work for you very well. The kid is he's a wizard when it comes to making chicken salad out of chicken shit. And it's funny because a lot of Ohio State fans online were actually, they were assuming that they were going to beat Miami, and then they were going to hope that Georgia wins. And when you ask them why, they're going to tell you, well, because Georgia gives up the deep ball like crazy. And so a lot of Buckeye fans thought that Georgia would be a better matchup for them. And to their credit, I guess devil's advocate, Georgia kind of proved that because they gave up an exorbitant amount of big plays down the field to Ole Miss. Ole Miss's receivers played very well too. But Chambliss made legitimate NFL throws all over Georgia's defense, and that can't go unmentioned because it was seemingly every single time. It was pressure up the middle. He would somehow evade. He would run around like a chicken with his head cut off and somehow make something happen. And at some point, you can't defend against that. You can't defend against backyard ball when it's just your time, right? When you're on, you're on. When you're off, you're off. And the constant pressure from the front seven of Georgia, just you think it would knock him off his spot, but he just makes adjustments on the fly. He's extremely elite at making adjustments, and improvisation. And there's that improbability and leadership that he has and possesses is kind of why he's my early pick for Heisman next year. He has all the physical intangibles, but he also has all the intangibles mentally, as a leader. And so I would be 0% shocked if he came away with the Heisman next year. And there was a lot of bend, don't break from Ole Miss's defense all night. And when you look back at the earlier matchup this season, Georgia did whatever they wanted to Ole Miss offensively. They established the run. They ran all over them. They scored on, I think, every single offensive drive. And if not, it was maybe one drive where they didn't score. Ole Miss has the offense, though. I mean, if you look back at that game, it was close because Ole Miss's offense is elite also. Pete Golding, to his credit, had this defense ready to go, and it showed. And they made the proper adjustments at halftime. There was a lot of clock management problems at the end of the first half, and he said, well, there's a lot of football left, but we just got to play our game and make the adjustments, and that's what they did. A lot of bend, don't break, especially in that last drive when it just felt like Georgia was going to score a touchdown and win the game, but they didn't. They kicked the field goal with like 50 seconds left, and when you leave 50 seconds on the board with Trinidad Chambliss, that's a recipe for disaster. And it ended up biting them in the ass, because guess what? The big play on that final drive that gave Ole Miss the game-winning field goal was an improvisation play. You pressured him, he evaded you, and he made you pay. It was every single time. And so for a coaching staff, not even just Kirby Smart, but for an entire coaching staff as knowledgeable and experienced as Georgia, I'm surprised that they didn't catch on to that. Because that's a really easy adjustment. You just play back, you spy the quarterback, right? And that's going to give you a better opportunity. If you had your second level spy him all night more often, Georgia probably was going to win the game. But they didn't. They were overly aggressive in times when it was not a necessity. And that is why they lost. So, Georgia's going to be fine going forward, obviously. They just have to play less aggressive when being aggressive isn't required. And as for Ole Miss versus Miami, I think Ole Miss's offense versus Miami's defense is going to be a really, really fun matchup to see. I'm excited to see that. That's what you call strength on strength, right? Miami's front seven, their secondary, that's an incredibly hard-hitting defense. If they play even half as tough as they did against Ohio State, then Ole Miss might be in for a long day. But at the same time, Ole Miss has one of the most electric offenses in the nation, and I think a more electric offense than Ohio State does. Right? Like Jeremiah Smith is better than any receiver Ole Miss has, but it's not just one guy, right? It's everybody. So early pick for that game, I'm gonna go with Miami for the early pick. I think it'll be 27-23, but I think it'll be a really good game, and I won't be surprised if Ole Miss makes a real run here. And if they do, then Pete Golding, he's you don't see that very often. I don't think we've ever seen that. I don't think we've ever seen a guy elevated from his coordinator position to being head coach just in time for the postseason, and then make that postseason run. I don't think that's happened before off the top of my head, but if he does, kudos to him. That's really special, and they clearly found the right guy for the job. So Ole Miss vanquishes Georgia 39-34, and couldn't be happier about it, to be honest. So go Rebels.